Welcome to TravelPreneur. This is Mega McSwain. Today we have the pleasure of speaking with Alan Young, hospitality industry expert and co-founder of Puzzle Partner Ltd, and a sought-after keynote speaker on business strategy, growth, transformation, and innovation. Alan is also a respected thought leader, battle-tested consultant, and mentor. Hello, Alan. Thanks for joining us today.
Oh, Mega, how are you? Thanks for having me.
Of
Was
course.
that my bio? It sounded way too impressive.
Well, did I miss anything? That was a nice little
No,
bio
I think
there.
you got it. Well,
Got it
I'm a
all?
father. I'm a father
Oh,
too, which is kind
well,
of important. So
that's kind of important as well.
there
Yes.
you go.
Well, we're so happy for you to join us on the TravelPreneur podcast and talking about Puzzle Partner today. So let's talk about your interest and focus in the hospitality and travel technology sector and how it kind of sparked the establishment of Puzzle Partner.
Well, I've been in the hospitality space for about 40 years, I guess, give or take,
Wow.
primarily working in the technology side of travel and hospitality. But I was sitting on a number of boards and advisory boards probably around 10 years ago. And they were constantly asking me about, marketing advice and stuff like that, sales advice. And so I was lucky enough to be introduced to my now partner. Her name is Ivana Johnston. And I was thinking, wow, we should flip some of these advisory roles into actual clients. It was a meeting of the minds. However, it was a complete fluke. It was neither one of us had said, let's start a company. So that's kind of how it all started. We just took some of these advisory board positions and moved them over to actual clients, and it grew from there. So it's been a 10-year ride already. It's been a lot of fun.
Wow. So tell me, what are the specialized services that Puzzle Partner offers?
I think essentially what we do is offer guidance at the end of the day,
Okay.
navigating your way through the world of hospitality and travel. If you're somebody that's coming into the industry with a great idea or a new product, or if you want to bridgehead into a market that you've never been there before, we kind of give that type of guidance. Then there are tangible things that we do, which is the development and delivery of content, branded content that's associated directly with our clients, products that are ghostwritten on our behalf, et cetera, et cetera. Everything from press releases all the way through content generation solutions. So we're both a strategic and a tactical agency that focuses on this space.
And as far as other agencies kind of in this sector, how is Puzzle Partner sort of set apart from other agencies that might do a sort of similar thing or have been doing it for the last several years?
Well, I think it's because we've been around for so bloody long. At the end of the day, between myself and my business partner, we've got about 60 years of experience, and we're lucky enough to have surrounded ourselves with writers that actually know all of the acronyms and nomenclature and the idiosyncrasies of our industry. So what happens with an agency that's not embedded within our market is their clients tend to spend a lot of time training them and getting them to understand their industry first and then be able to complement their business by writing proper content or et cetera. And, we already bring that to the market. The other thing that's a little different, if you look at New York agencies and stuff like that, a lot of our companies really want to be focused on the types of outlets that are primarily positioned at their type of buyer. It's not going to be a TechCrunch or a Wired or that type of world just yet until they get large and famous. But it's more of those medium-sized distribution platforms where they can be heard and then also contacted.
And where's Puzzle Partner based? It's US based, I'm sure.
No, we're Canadian. We are Canadian
Okay.
through and through. Yeah, just north of Toronto.
And are most of your clients North American? Are you global? How are your clients sort of?
We're global. Funnily enough, we very rarely have Canadian clients. We have one now. He's kind of a hybrid client between Canada and the US. He's based on the West Coast. But primarily our clients are in the US and overseas Europe. And we've had some clients based in APAC, in the APAC region as well. So the world's gotten a lot smaller, especially when it comes to technology adoption. And, our industry in general has gotten smaller. So no longer is it a requirement for an agency such as ours to be in somebody else's backyard.
Right. Can you share maybe a success story of a client that you've had in the last 10 years, something that Puzzle Partner has really stepped up and helped somebody, that maybe a story you can share with us?
We did a count a few years ago. I think it was 3 years ago that we had since we started the company, we've supported about 60 clients, and this is 3 years ago. And I think it was 12 clients out of those 60 had successfully exited their companies. A lot of the companies that we have helped in the past were startups. And so that was a pretty good number with us helping amplify their brand, their products, and their people. But one of them is probably the most prominent, a company in the property management system space and based out of, let's see, Maryland, I believe, a company called Stay in Touch that we worked with Yost Shop and his team for probably 3 years until such time as they were acquired at a fairly beneficial rate for him and his other people. So those are the types of stories that we like to hear when companies that we've been able to support have a great exit, or conversely see their bottom line actually start to increase and sell more stuff effectively.
Sure. And you mentioned 3 years ago, that was 2020. Was your business, I mean, I'm sure people that you work with are obviously affected, but was your business affected at that time?
Oh my God, yeah. Our business went from 20 clients down to 3. So yeah, everybody put the brakes on, right? Understandably, because
Right.
it was weird and it still is weird. But what it did was enable us to kind of change our outlook on the business and how we want to grow it. Pre-pandemic, it was nuts. We were busy. We had lots and lots of writers, lots of clients going full bore, but we didn't have a lot of time for ourselves, and we just focused on the business and growing it. And the pandemic hit, and then obviously, you do a lot of soul searching. I think a lot of people did. And so post the pandemic, when we started ratcheting up again, we actually capped it. We said that we're only going to have a certain number of clients so we can not only deliver what we need to deliver and service them the way that they deserve to be serviced, but also on the back end, company now works a 4-day work week, which enables us to have a bit of a life. So, which is a good thing.
Right. That is a good thing. So that sort of allowed you to sort of restructure and look at things after. It's nice how that does that, doesn't it? It sort of forces you to make changes.
Oh, completely. And, thank God for the Canadian government, because they stepped up they were incredibly generous by helping out small companies. Now, it wasn't in perpetuity. We had to give all the money back and it wasn't for free, but they certainly stepped up and helped, which enabled us to keep some employees on, even though we didn't have clients. That it also enabled us to look at the strategy element of the company a little bit more, just give it a little bit more time. But at the end of the day, we did make changes. Obviously, we don't have the same number of FTEs that we had previously, but at the same time, I think we've helped ourselves and we've helped our clients that are currently on our roster by just being able to give them more face time and more strategic kind of discussion time.
Right. And that kind of restructuring sometimes is more beneficial in the long run.
Of course, a lot of companies want to grow exponentially as quickly as humanly possible. And I probably would have said that would have been the goal 20 years ago. But at the same time now, I want to grow with a steady rate and bring in new ideas and different types of companies and things that excite me at the same time as excite the industry. So I don't want another company that's going to show me how they can unlock a door with a mobile device. I think we've got all that. I want companies that are going to, bring something new to the industry. And if so, we're all in.
This episode is brought to you by travelpayments.com. Travel businesses have unique needs when it comes to credit card processing. From large average ticket sizes and tolerance for higher chargeback ratios to simple integrations with the most popular shopping cart systems, the travel industry specialists at travelpayments.com have you covered. Unfortunately, many of the most popular credit card processors initially accept travel businesses, but without warning, freeze their merchant accounts and the thousands of dollars in them because these service providers don't understand or support the unique needs of travel industry business. Don't get stuck with one of the big guys who will freeze you out without a moment's notice. Instead, work with a travel industry specialist who will support your business every step of the way. Visit travelpayments.com to get a free quote today.
Aside from the natural sort of halting caused by COVID in 2020, were there any other challenges in sort of the last decade of building Puzzle Partner that you had or that you can recall?
Were there challenges? I think there's always challenges with starting a new company. You have to get incorporated and get lawyers and accountants and all the things that you always left to another company to deal with because you were employed by them. But I think the most challenging thing, and it's going to sound weird, was understanding how important travel is to the business. And I used to travel all the time pre-starting Puzzle Partner. And it was a joy and also a pain, right? You got to go to amazing places, but you stayed there for 2 or 3 days, but it was part of the
Right.
job. But now travel is more important. It's more of a connection tool. And that to me was something you had to really wrap your mind around. It wasn't just let's get a ticket and go fly and see somebody. There had to be a reason, there had to be a way to do it properly. And so travel became more important, and making sure you could emphasize how important that travel is by picking where you go and how you expose the company and yourself and the people around you properly versus, running around the planet trying to sell a system, which can be great and also kind of strange. So that was a really interesting thing. And having a business partner, not something that I've had before, but that's something that has been great since we started the company. She has her strengths and I have mine. So
Right.
it works out really, really well.
How do you see Puzzle Partner as contributing to the transformative change in the hospitality industry? I mean, you see in the last few years alone how much things have changed and how there's a new normal. So how does Puzzle Partner sort of fit into that future?
Yeah, I think from our perspective, because we understand what's going on and because we're constantly educating ourselves and our clients about the requirements are, and it's not just the technology that's being adopted by hotel companies, but it's also how do these B2B companies effectively brand themselves and make sure that they get the proper visibility that they deserve, and what mediums can they use. That has changed a great deal since COVID, right?
Right.
The usability of platforms such as LinkedIn for B2B marketing and B2B sales has increased immensely. We see that as an incredible channel for our clients to use versus 3 or 4 years ago where we would say throw everything up on a publications channel somewhere and see if you get visibility that way. So that's one thing. And I think also as it let people spend a lot of time understanding what's going on in the market. So people became better educated. Marketing hype only gets you so far anymore. You've got to actually
Right.
have the goods. And
Sure. To back
I
it
think
up.
that's
Yeah.
changed a lot. When it comes to technology, my huge focus these days too is on sustainability, and not sustainability related to the environmental aspect of everything that we see happening around us, but we sustainability related to equity, inclusion, those kind of things. I'm lucky enough to teach at the local college, and I teach on sustainable tourism and sustainable hotel ops and those kind of things. But I see that as something our industry has yet to fully embrace. So we still have a long way to go there.
What are some of your recent observations? I mean, especially being an educator, on some of the most significant advancements in the hospitality and travel technology industry?
Well, on the horizon is the implementation of any kind of generative AI. Hotel
Right.
companies will be able to use this to revamp websites, keep content up to date and pertinent, and they don't have to rely on a whole bunch of people writing this stuff. You still
Right.
need people to moderate it and make sure you're not sending out anything goofy. But I think generative AI will have a huge impact not only on our industry, but many other industries. I
Right.
still think we're just scratching the surface. Every time I hear of an expert in this, I go, my God, I don't know how anybody can be an expert in something that's not really a year old. At least
Right.
the adoption curve is not nearly a year old. So I think that'll have something. I also think there'll be more of a push on autonomous hotel properties moving forward, where I think during the pandemic, you had a lot of people that got used to kind of self service. But I also believe that there's an element of self service where you can do self service on steroids, where business travelers and others will just go ahead and say, this is all we need in order to manage our day to day. Just give me a room that's clean and
Right.
I can handle all the rest. And so I
Right.
do believe that you'll see the advancements of some of those types of hotels move up in the near future. It's already happening in Europe with a number of locations, but it hasn't quite been adopted in the Americas just yet. But if you look at the hotels that are running 30, 40% in urban downtown cores, the retrofitting out of being fully autonomous, not only does it make a lot of sense financially, but the boost in profitability is amazing. If you can set the guests' expectations effectively, say this is what you're going to get, and don't
Hmm.
snow them and tell them that what it is, I
Right.
think there'll be lots of people that will be quite happy to go into an environment such as that.
Right. I think the world has definitely been moving in that direction in so many different avenues where people are just more self-sufficient and happy to be so.
We talked about it 20 years ago, God, 30 years ago. We were developing something called the Open Travel Alliance schema. So the OTA schema, which was XML transmission of messages between airlines, CRSs with hotel companies, car rental companies, etc. And we had this vision of everything being automated, from how somebody would wake up in the morning till they got on their flight, till they hit their hotel. And pretty much it was nothing but technological intervention all the way from start to finish. And it's only now, 30 years later, that we're getting to a point where we can probably really pull that off.
As an educator and just someone who's so ingrained in this, what are some of the key strategies that you often advise maybe entrepreneurs who are interested in getting into the travel industry, particularly those who are fostering growth and transformation?
Focus. That would be it in a nutshell. You have to have your people laser focused, your executive group laser focused, and your investors laser focused on what the goal is. I find that because of cash flow and the challenges that companies have starting up, or even regenerating into something next, sometimes cash flow becomes paramount and top of mind. So they may go ahead and take on a deal that isn't necessarily part of their core focus, and that will be incredibly distractive. So I learned many years ago, and it's not me, it's from other people pre me that gave me this advice, which is, you need to really focus on what you're going to deliver and make sure that you deliver the best of whatever it is you have to do. Our industry 20 years ago, and possibly even now at times, a lot of the technology providers tend to overemphasize the capabilities of a platform, and it doesn't necessarily do what it should be doing. And as such, you can only kind of mess somebody over once. It doesn't happen very often. You only do it once and you're not likely going to do it again. I think if you focus on the core elements of the product and how you're going to do it and target the right market, et cetera, then a company will be successful with the right branding and the right strategy. But at the same time, got to be careful, because if you mess people around, our industry is really small. It's weird.
Right. No, you're right about that.
Yeah, for as massive as it is, right? It's pretty tiny. A lot of people talk. So,
right.
But
yeah,
exactly. Focus.
What do you think sets apart successful travelpreneurs from the rest?
I think a lot of them have done a substantial amount of market due diligence on their products. I think a lot of people build up a software company or whatever they want to deliver into our market and think it's a great idea, but they don't necessarily ask everybody about whether it makes sense. Startups don't necessarily spend a lot of time really understanding market research and figuring all that kind of stuff out, because it's usually all about a product or a service or a delivery mechanism, those kind of things. There's a great company called Savioke. We've never worked for them, so there's no plug, but they did robots in hotels. I think they still do robots in hotels, right? Room service robots. They'll deliver a paper and that kind of stuff.
Interesting.
But it's only certain types of hotels that can do this, right? They can't be a Hilton Garden Inn or a Hampton or something that's fairly linear in its hallways. And sure, they can map everything out, but it's probably seamless to say, okay, we've mapped out all the Hiltons, Garden Inns in North America. Here's the robot that knows them all, rather than trying to figure out different market segments. And I think they expected it to be widely adopted when they launched it probably 10 years ago, 8 years ago, maybe. But obviously it hasn't really taken off because you don't see them everywhere. But they are being adopted, but at a much slower pace than they expected. So I think market research is, to me, one of the most important things to do. And it's not just market research on TAMs, it's market research on asking the consumer, does this make sense? Right. Is this something that they're going to purchase? We've been talking about attribute-based selling for quite some time in our industry, right? About being able to strip apart a room and say, sell the balcony and sell the fireplace and sell all this kind of stuff within the booking path and do it differently. But the question is, does a consumer really want that? Or is it just a way for a hotel to make more money? You got to do some deep searching to make sure that whatever you're going to thrust upon the industry is actually going to work and that people want it.
You sound like you're definitely so knowledgeable about all of this and just really keeping your ear to the street. Is there a book or a podcast or any kind of resource that has influenced your approach to business and innovation, something that you keep up with that keeps you sort of inspired and always thinking?
My business partner is probably primary because she's always got great ideas. Are there podcasts that I listen to? Yeah, but they're probably more along the historical line of
Mhm.
our world. But what I do keep on top of is what the mid-tier technologists are doing in our space. I look at a myriad of different publications, online and offline publications. We can always listen to the people that run Expedia and the people that run booking.com. Okay, I get that. But it's the next tier down, the
Right.
technology integrators, the people that are really trying to figure out all the nitty gritty in our industry that I find most interesting to listen to. If I see the CEO of a mid-tier company that is trying to fix something that's wrong, I'm all over that. Some of the best hospitality books that I've written are the ones that are really, really focused on the guest psyche, the guest, and how
Right.
we deliver it to them. I was lucky enough to work for Four Seasons during my early career, and it instilled in me a lot of that whole centricity on the guest. And it
Right.
still lives true, I believe. If people don't want it, though, like an autonomous hotel, that works too. But yeah, no,
So,
there are certain podcasts. I listen to Glenn Houseman's all the time. He's fun and interesting. There are more and more, which I think is
mhm,
great. It covers, it's like a blanket. It covers more topics, which I think is
right.
important. I love what you're doing because the entrepreneurial aspect of our business is sometimes only talked about during pitch sessions at large
Right.
events and not talked about on a daily basis, which I think is really important.
Yeah, it's nice for us because we get to really dig deep with people like you and companies that are doing really cool things and just kind of find out what was your story, what was your journey, what were the challenges, kind of inspire more of that to happen in the future.
It's the benefit of looking backwards times, right? I'm
Right.
a little long in the tooth, so I can see all the mistakes I made a while ago and try not to make them again. Doesn't mean I won't make many in the future, but like I said, I've been lucky enough to be in this industry for quite some time, and I don't expect to leave it anytime soon.
So, well, that brings me to what does the future hold for Puzzle Partner? What can you share? What's on the horizon?
We're looking at diversifying a little bit, getting into different aspects of what you guys are doing with the podcast, but not necessarily being the people up front and not necessarily being the production people either. So I'll leave that to your mind to click over. But we do see two components. Obviously, we pontificate ad nauseum about how important the guests are to hoteliers. At the same time, that's a relationship build scenario. And I think video based podcasts are also enabling that to occur. If you can help B2B companies increase their brand awareness, increase the visibility of their people, and ultimately, without pitching something, enable people to understand what you do for a living, product wise or whatever else wise, then that's a great medium to utilize. So even though that's not something that we will do on the ground, so to speak, we do see that as an element of what we're going to offer in the future. Not, like I said, not the actual recording of podcasts like you are, but kind of being a little bit more in the background. But we also look at, we're looking at growing again, which is nice, but we're looking at growing like this. We're going to have a branded content arm and then another arm of the company, which I can't necessarily say just yet, but that'll be on the horizon probably by the end of the year.
Well, yeah, we'll have to have you back on the show and get an update.
There you go. There you go.
Well, Alan, thank you so much. This was all so helpful and just really nice to kind of learn a little bit more about you, learn more about Puzzle Partner. But if people want to keep up with the company and keep up with you, stay in touch, how can they find you? Is there a website you can share?
Just puzzlepartner.co. We couldn't get .com because there were too many people building puzzles. But puzzlepartner.co is our website, and
Great.
we have a Canadian domain as well, so puzzlepartner.ca.
Wonderful. Well, thank you so much, Alan, and we look forward to speaking with you again on the TravelPreneur podcast.
Anytime. Thank you so much for having me. I appreciate it.
Thank you. Sure.